David and I have been dating for 3 years, and he never had a reason to question my trust until yesterday. I was at work when he decided to organize my cluttered closet. Amidst the chaos, he discovered an old shoebox labeled memories. Inside, he found letters, love letters from a past boyfriend. I had simply forgotten about them. When I got home, David confronted me, visibly upset. He assumed I kept them because I wasn't over my ex. I was shocked, desperately explaining that they were just relics of my past, insignificant in my present life. I even offered to throw them away, but he seemed unconvinced. The air felt tense, and the awkward silence that followed spoke volumes. As the dust settled, I wondered, is keeping mementos from past relationships a betrayal? For months, I felt uneasy about my boyfriend, Jake. He'd become secretive. Yesterday, I got home early to surprise him. As I entered, I was stunned to see him on the couch with another woman. She had my hair, my build, even wore one of my shirts. Jake turned pale when he saw me, immediately spilling apologies, claiming it was a misunderstanding. Apparently, she was an actress from a niche drama where she played a character that resembled me. The real twist? She was hired by Jake to create a personalized love story video as a surprise anniversary gift. I was skeptical until she handed me the script. They were filming a scene called The Great Betrayal. Talk about meta, huh?
We've been together for 2 years, and each full moon, Leo mysteriously disappears until morning. He claims it's an old family tradition, but won't tell me more. My curiosity got the better of me last night, so I followed him. He drove to a secluded forest, parked, and walked into the trees. I lost sight of him for a moment. Then, I heard a howl. Terrified, I stumbled back to the car and waited until dawn. When Leo returned, he looked exhausted but happier than I'd ever seen him. This morning, he greeted me with a warm smile and asked if I'd join him next time. I can't shake the feeling that he's hiding something monumental. We've been married for 10 years, and last week, while organizing boxes in the attic, I found a journal tucked away in an old briefcase. Curious, I opened it. Inside, I found entries describing a life that wasn't ours, different city, different job, and a different Emma as his wife. At first, I thought it was a story he was writing, but the details were too vivid, too personal. Confronting him over dinner, I expected laughter or sheepishness. Instead, he went pale and whispered, "I didn't think you'd find out like this." He confessed he'd lived a previous life, one he'd been unable to leave behind. Now I'm torn. Is my marriage built on secrets? Can we continue with such a revelation hanging over us?
After months of dating, Scott started disappearing every Tuesday evening, claiming book club. Suspicious, I followed him. At the park, dogs swarmed him like groupies at a concert. He chirped and howled, communicating in perfect canine dialect. Watching in disbelief, I realized he was a dog whisperer. Turns out every book club was a dog therapy session. I confronted him, and he explained it's a side job to pay for our dream vacation. But here's the kicker. He admitted he's unsure if he wants to take me along. So, am I dating Dr. Dolittle, or am I just a pit stop on his way to the Bahamas? 3 years, 2 apartments, and 1 shared cat named Zeus, yet Alex managed to keep his passion for yoga under wraps all this time. That's right, he suddenly declared his love for downward dogs and warrior poses, and apparently, he'd been attending yoga classes for the past 4 months. I'd never seen him stretch beyond reaching for his phone charger, so forgive my skepticism. Let's rewind, shall we? Alex and I met in college, and he was always more of a couch potato than a fitness fanatic. So when he told me he needed me time for yoga, my suspicious radar went up faster than a caffeine high. Not to mention, he never once invited me along to these mystical yoga sessions. His newfound health kick seemed more like an infomercial for doubt. Things escalated when I accidentally found a text from Serenity on his phone as I was setting a reminder for him. An unusual name for someone who apparently teaches exercise classes, don't you think? The message wasn't exactly incriminating, just a casual, "Looking forward to seeing your progress tonight," but my gut felt something was off. In my infinite wisdom, I decided to do a little detective work. I followed Alex one chilly Thursday evening. There he was, blissfully unaware, striding into what looked like a yoga studio. Except it was actually a cozy-looking cafe. I peered through the window and, oh boy, was that a yoga mat or just a pizza menu? Spoiler alert, it was pizza. But wait, it gets better. The real bombshell was when Serenity arrived. She was not his yoga teacher, but his ex-girlfriend. And there they were, giggling like teenagers sharing a secret, and possibly an extra-large pepperoni. I barged in, armed with a mix of confusion and nachos. I got hungry, okay? Demanding an explanation. Alex stammered like a faulty engine, trying to explain that he just wanted to reconnect and had no clue how to tell me. Serenity chimed in, assuring me they were just friends and that she was actually moving to another state next month. Alex and I had a long, honest chat afterward, where he revealed he'd been feeling nostalgic about his past, and this yoga thing was just his clumsy way of exploring that. Apparently, he didn't plan to renew his yogi membership. In a cringeworthy twist fitting for a bad sitcom, we agreed to try actual yoga classes together. Zeus the cat, who was definitely not amused by our antics, was the real MVP through the ordeal. So now I reflect on the absurdity of it all. Relationships, like yoga poses, can be tricky to master, but with enough patience and communication, maybe you'll manage to not fall flat on your face. When Mark and I started dating a decade ago, it was easy to overlook his eccentricity. After all, I found his love for stamp collecting charming, albeit a little old-fashioned. Over the years, we moved in together, shared a cat, and built what I thought was an unshakable foundation. The real trouble began last summer. Mark, who usually reserved his weekends for leisurely hikes and quiet nights reading, started disappearing for hours on end. He mentioned a new hobby, historical reenactments, and I couldn't have been more supportive. I even encouraged his costume purchases, thinking a creative outlet might be refreshing for him. However, the reenactments soon took on a life of their own. First, it was just one weekend a month, then every weekend, and finally, entire evenings during the week. Every time I asked to come along, he insisted that it wouldn't be my scene or that he wanted to surprise me later with his progress. The escalation unfolded over a series of small but significant events. First, our conversations began to feel one-sided. Mark's stories about his reenactment friends were vague, his characters grand, yet never compellingly real. Then there were receipts I found in his pockets, dinners for two at restaurants we never frequented, and extravagant costume rental fees. Last, and most unsettling, was when a message from an unknown number popped up on his phone, reading, "Can't wait to see you again." In a heated confrontation one night, accusations flew, and Mark confessed that his reenactment group wasn't just about history. "We create stories," he explained, "and sometimes those stories spill over into reality." It turned out his reenactment world had introduced him to Claire, an equally enthusiastic participant, and they had been writing their own history, a fictional relationship, he claimed, that had become all too real. The climax was raw. I asked him to choose between this pretend life and our very real one. It was a night of tearful confessions and long silences, the weight of potential separation heavy in the air. Surprisingly, it was Mark who broke the silence, admitting that in his quest to escape reality, he had lost sight of it. Things didn't resolve overnight. We created new boundaries, agreed on full transparency, and decided that his hobby needed to include me if it was to continue. In a twist, I joined him for a reenactment, discovering a new side to Mark and, surprisingly, myself. Reflecting now, I see how easy it is for a couple to drift apart when communication falters and assumptions take the place of understanding. Sometimes, a hidden world isn't about betrayal. It's about needing to find oneself, a journey that can either tear two people apart or bring them closer together. Has anyone else had a partner with a hobby that seemed to take over their lives? How did you handle it?
Mark and I had been together for 5 years, having met in a quaint little bookshop when our hands reached for the same dusty tome of Victorian ghost stories. Our relationship was an anthology of shared dreams and whispered promises, and his proposal 6 months ago felt like the ultimate chapter. We rented a charming old house on the outskirts of a town wrapped in fog as thick as our hopes. Mark adored the place and spent long hours in the attic, a space he once said held his soul. He never allowed me inside. Private sanctuary, he'd called it. The key arrived on an unseasonably warm October evening, slipped under the front door, wrapped in a crumpled envelope with no return address. Its ornate design matched nothing I'd seen before, yet a chill wrapped around my spine as I held it. I mentioned it to Mark, hoping for even a flicker of recognition in his eyes, but he merely shrugged and changed the subject. Curiosity gnawed at me. That night, unable to sleep, I took the key and ascended the creaky stairs, heart pounding in anticipation and dread. The key slid into the attic's lock with a chilling ease, the door groaning open like the maw of some ancient creature. Inside, the air buzzed with a disquieting energy. Candles flickered, casting monstrous shadows over the walls. On a small table lay a collection of peculiar memorabilia, old photographs, tattered journal pages, and weathered charms. My breath caught at a picture of Mark, younger, beside a girl whose face was eerily similar to mine. The journal pages detailed a past relationship with this girl, Lisa, who had disappeared under suspicious circumstances. Mark's frantic scribbles spoke of guilt and her spirit haunting him for all eternity. Goosebumps prickled my skin, each word an icy finger tracing my spine. As I sifted through the morbid relics, I heard the unmistakable creak of the staircase. Mark stood framed in the doorway, his eyes wide, face ghostly pale. "You weren't supposed to see this," he whispered, his voice entwined with menace and despair. Our confrontation was a tempest of accusations and denials. He confessed, a broken man, that Lisa's disappearance haunted him, an accident, he claimed, but the house and its artifacts bound her spirit. He'd brought me here to appease the haunting, believing a familiar presence might bring him peace. Horrified, I stumbled downstairs, leaving him in his sanctuary of sorrow and phantoms. With the dawn, I packed a suitcase, the weight of betrayal heavier than anything tangible. As I drove away, the house loomed in my rearview mirror, a dark relic of secrets and shadows. Reflecting on it, I realize how love can blind us to the shadows lurking beneath the surface. Trust shattered, replaced with questions about how well we truly know those we hold dear. What would you do if you uncovered a disturbing secret about your partner's past?
For the past 5 years, I've been in what I thought was a solid relationship with Alex. We met during my senior year of college, and Alex, with their infectious laugh and warm personality, seemed like my perfect match. We moved in together 2 years ago, merging our lives seamlessly, or so I thought. It all started innocently enough. We were supposed to host a dinner party, and Alex asked me to use their laptop to find a recipe they had bookmarked. As I opened the browser, a notification for an unfamiliar email popped up in the corner, an email I didn't recognize. My curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked on it, only to discover an entire secret account filled with emails from someone named Jamie. At first, I wanted to believe it was a simple mistake, perhaps a work colleague or an old friend. But as I read through the emails, a different story unfolded. The exchanges were intimate, filled with inside jokes and plans to meet up. My heart sank as I realized these weren't just casual interactions. Confronting Alex was one of the hardest things I've ever done. They initially denied everything, claiming Jamie was just an old friend. But when I mentioned the secret email account, their defenses crumbled. Alex admitted that they'd been seeing Jamie for over a year. They claimed it was nothing serious, just someone to talk to when we hit rough patches. Our argument was fiery, emotions running high. I felt betrayed, and Alex, though apologetic, was insistent that Jamie meant nothing. We decided to take a break to process everything, but being apart only raised more questions. During this time, I confided in my close friend Lily, who suggested I reach out to Jamie for clarity. What Jamie revealed was shocking. Alex had portrayed our relationship as one on the rocks, using it as justification for their affair. Jamie had no idea of the extent of my relationship with Alex. Armed with this new information, I confronted Alex again. This time, there was no denying the impact of their actions. The deceit had eroded the trust we built over the years. Alex begged for forgiveness, swore they loved me, and promised never to stray again. In the end, I chose to end the relationship. The betrayal had left an indelible mark, and I knew that rebuilding trust would be an uphill battle I wasn't prepared to fight. Though painful, the decision brought me a sense of relief and the opportunity to focus on my well-being. Reflecting on it now, I realize that love isn't just about the good times, but also how partners navigate the crises together. I learned the importance of communication and honesty, lessons I will carry with me into future relationships. Have you ever discovered a secret that changed the course of your relationship? How did you cope with the newfound truth?
Adam and I have been together since college. We've shared everything from ramen packets to dreams of moving to a cabin in the woods, away from everything and everyone, except maybe our Wi-Fi. We were a solid team, right up until the infamous cookout incident. A few weeks ago, at our friend Lily's backyard barbecue, I decided to bring my family-famous potato salad. It's a recipe that's been passed down through generations, and I swear it's almost as iconic as the Mona Lisa in my family. Now Adam, being the culinary enthusiast that he is, never quite grasped the importance of this salad, often suggesting improvements like adding truffle oil or, God forbid, raisins. At the barbecue, as everyone was doting over my potato salad like it was the star of a Netflix series, Adam started acting weird. He stood by the grill, flipping burgers in a manner resembling a chef in a high-stakes cooking show, throwing shady glances at me and the salad. Event number 1. Lily's cousin, Tom, who I must admit does have an uncanny ability to make you believe you're the funniest person alive, complimented my culinary prowess. "This potato salad is god tier," he exclaimed. It was innocent enough, but Adam rolled his eyes so hard I thought they'd pop out and join the grill. Event number 2. The next day, Adam, who normally wouldn't be caught dead scrolling through Pinterest, spent the entire afternoon looking up potato salad recipes. When I asked him what he was up to, he mumbled something about perfecting the art. The sarcasm in my "oh, really" was lost on him as he digested his newfound obsession. Event number 3. Adam scheduled a potato salad showdown for the following weekend. Yes, you heard right, a showdown. He invited our entire friend group and took it upon himself to make a salad he thought would dethrone mine. It was like watching a culinary version of a Wild West duel, but instead of pistols, we had mayonnaise and potatoes. The climax came when I tasted his concoction. It was eerily similar to mine, but with an unnecessary amount of Dijon mustard. Our friends, clearly amused by our culinary Cold War, diplomatically declared it a tie. Adam was livid, less because he didn't win, and more because I didn't take the showdown as seriously as he did. Resolution. Adam and I sat down for a conversation, potato salad free, where he admitted feeling sidelined by my family's traditions, feeling like a guest in my life. It was an unexpected twist that had me reflecting on how I'd inadvertently excluded him. I suggested incorporating some of his ideas, like adding a unique twist, although raisins were non-negotiable. Now, our potato salad is a little more us, complete with a hint of smoked paprika that Adam introduced. Yeah, maybe I did get overly sentimental about a salad, but it was a wake-up call to both of us about sharing more in the relationship. Reflecting on the ordeal, I realize how sometimes the smallest things can become the biggest issues if left unchecked. Adam and I learned to laugh at the absurdity of the situation, a story to tell our future kids, no doubt. So, here's my question. What's the most ridiculous thing that ever led to a serious conversation in your relationship? Leave your culinary catastrophes and relationship revelations in the comments.